Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cherished Daughters Revolutions video series where moms come to invest today in their daughters tomorrow. Today, our special guests are two people that are so dear to my heart. I can honestly say that Cherished Daughters would not be what it is if it had not been for their amazing leadership in youth organization. I had the pleasure of serving under these two when I first came into youth ministry. And I know God handpicked me for them because I'm kind of crazy and I needed them to be able to accept me in my craziness. So our guests today, Greg and ShaKeirra Lewis, are the infamous youth leaders at our church. And they have a beautiful family. They've been a blended family for over 9 years now. They work together in life and ministry. They are a wonderful example on how to do life as a blended family. So I just have to say this small little caveat. I know I'm their biggest fan, but when I first met them, I just knew they were like natural biological family. So when ShaKeirra tells me that her oldest son is not Greg's biological, I couldn't understand. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? It did not correlate. It would not go into my long-term memory. My mind wouldn't accept it. It was like, no, there's no way. So that is another reason why I invited them here today, because they have done life in a way where I've seen a man care for a child that I literally could not believe was not his own biological one, and love his wife and his family and lead in Christ in a way that's phenomenal. So they are not perfect, but I think they are doing a phenomenal job in leadership, marriage, family, and blended families, all these things above. So welcome, Greg and ShaKeirra.
Thank you.
Blended families can be difficult, especially when teenagers are involved, as we all know as youth leaders. But how would you advise an engaged couple who are going to blend their families together to remain realistic about their expectations? They're madly in love, but their teens might not be.
I would say communicate. Communication is the biggest thing. The Bible talks about writing a vision and make it plain. So definitely having a vision for where you want the family to go, where you want your marriage to go. Those will be the biggest advice right there.
Mom, when I first met him, I didn't actually we met like out in public, and I had my son with me, and so I didn't if I was dating someone, introduce them to my child right away, and that wasn't my intent. And so it was a very special individual that would get to meet my child. And then Greg and I did 10 months every week of premarital counseling, and
Wow.
So we set good expectations for what we wanted as a family goes in it.
That's awesome. So that has been the theme of this series, right, Karen? Communication.
Yes.
That has been the ongoing, that's the silver thread that's run through every episode is communicate, communicate, communicate. So healthy communication is the foundation for a healthy everything. So we couldn't agree more. That's great. And 10 months of premarital counseling every week. That's commitment. Yeah. That's serious. I'm so amazed and so proud. And it explains why you guys are so great. The way you set a really good foundation, and it shows because that's a big commitment, and that can be an inconvenience. So you knew that he was really in it, like truly in it, because you can put up a front for maybe 2-3 months, but 10, yeah. He's the real deal. Yeah.
What are some challenges you faced when y'all blended your family together?
For me, the biggest challenge was that I had been a single mom for 6 years. And so learning to submit and show my son what a healthy marriage would look like was the hardest part for me, was submitting to my husband and taking his input on different challenges, especially things like discipline and how a man should do things as they grow up and things of that nature.
Okay, and I think, what about when you were used to being a single mom and all of a sudden you had somebody else coming in giving advice and how to parent? How did that work?
That was a different subject for me because I always had my dad in the picture. Like my parents were divorced, but my dad kept me on the summers and weekends. And so Greg was raised by a single mom. And so I feel like he had a lot more experience in that area so that he could speak into things that my son would possibly be feeling or going through. And so he was able to kind of coach me through some of those things and how we could come together and navigate them.
Wow. Greg, what were some of those insights that you brought to the table being a male child raised by a single mom? Like for us as the moms, we don't know what those blind spots could be.
Gotcha. So one of like I get the world would say like boys will be boys, right? But for what that meant for me as a young man, like there was things that my mom like tried to protect me from. So for example, like I was definitely a daredevil. So I would go and jump off things and flip off things. And if my mom ever caught me, she would be like, no, don't do that. That's too dangerous. But that was part of like guys being the guys. Like we roughhouse, we played tackle football, like very I remember one in particular, we played, there was a divider in between the street that we stayed on, and there was grass in between there, and all the guys went in the middle of there and played football. And like my mom found out that I was playing football there, and she was like, absolutely not. Cars are going by. What you gonna do if the ball goes in the street? And I'm like, Mom, like don't make me sit on the porch and watch the guys, please, please.
That's definitely me as a mom, like bubble wrap my
I'm like, I'm nodding along, like, yeah, no. And that's so funny, Greg. That is so true because my oldest son, so when my youngest son got stitches on his forehead, like he ran into a brick wall and got stitches. My oldest son reaction was jealousy. Like he has stitches and scars and I don't. I've got to at least break my arm. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm so glad he's okay. But that was like his natural go-to. And I went to one of the guys at church, Trey, and Trey's like, yeah, that's guys. And I'm like, that's not normal. And he's like,
I see. We still do it now. Like as a grown man, I will still run up to another grown man like, bro, look, check it. You see it? You see it? Yes, bro. So
that is so amazing for you to point that out, that they do need to be able to be physical because they're not going to sit down and be quiet and play tea party like I did, right? That's not something that's happened.
And here I am with my sanitizer and my baby wipes. And he's like, just let him grow up.
Yeah. Like rub some dirt on it. It's okay.
Rub some dirt on it. Oh my goodness. Completely different mindset. That's why God made a mom and a dad. They need that balance because that's good. So were there any other things that you noticed, Greg, coming in to the relationship about? Not
really. That was the biggest thing. The other thing, what I was very cautious of, because I know that women are more nurturing, was just coming in with disciplinary when you're not like the biological. So I tried to very much ease my way into that role. Like, and I spent very early on where I would defer to her. Like, hey, this happened. Like, how would you want me to react here? You know, I know that's a rule that you don't want broken, but it got broken. So what do you want me to do in that point? So I relied on her to give me the go ahead and the green light to say, hey, you know, if that happens, if they're willfully breaking rules with you, then, you know, go ahead, issue a punishment, but just make sure the punishment fits the crime, you know? So don't be like, oh, you left the toilet seat up, you're on punishment for 2 months. You know, she's like, make sure it fits with what's going on there.
Okay.
And that was communication between you two before you disciplined your son.
Yes.
So that's good. That's really good, because I think that sometimes when there's no communication, that makes it causes major problems.
Absolutely. So we touched on the learning how to accept someone else's input on how to raise a child and discipline a child, and then having that dynamic of a male idea of what it is to be a man. And like you said, we will never be men, so we don't know. So having that male perspective was new for you. But what are some of the other challenges that you guys have seen for blended families, maybe your own or some that you've been, helping minister to in youth leadership? I'm sure you've seen a variety of scenarios.
My biggest fear, being that he didn't have any children, was he going to be able to step up to the plate? And like, parenting is a relentless job. Like, you're always on, and if you've only been like the fun uncle, that's really different than being a dad. What are you going to do when they get calls home from school? What are you going to do when he has his heart broken? What are all those things? And so that's some of the places where I was afraid. And I see a lot of men take a very hands-off approach with parenting, and I feel like that doesn't send the same love that our Father in heaven gives to us. And so I was just really, and I didn't know what it looked like at that time. I wasn't, I was kind of new in my faith, and so I didn't know how to trust God to minister to Greg so that he could minister to my son.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
good.
I've seen a lot of the hands off that, like, oh, that's your child. I don't, that's not my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that it just creates a lot of tension and
Yeah.
and disunity in the family.
Agreed.
And I know you have to respect the other, if the my sister is in a second marriage, and there are children on both sides, and their parents, their ex spouse was still involved in their kids' lives, and so communication and how to deal with that is sometimes really difficult, because well, at my dad's house I'm allowed to do this, but at my mom's I'm not. And so it creates a lot of confusion, I think, for children and teenagers, when all the parents involved don't communicate well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's another thing that goes back to what you said in the beginning, Greg, that about setting the vision for your family, right? So when you guys come together, you can set the expectation of what you're going to have for your household. And then ultimately you have to include what those variables are and how they're going to come in and impact your family. You even have to account for that. And I don't think that when you go into your new marriage that you're actually thinking about that. But I think things like 10 months of premarital counseling, those are things that you would need to address.
Greg had no idea what he was getting himself into. He became the point person for Jaden's biological father. And so anytime that there would need to be pickups or drop-offs or birthday parties or what am I getting the kids for Christmas, all that goes through Greg. Like, I barely have any communication with their dad, not because with his dad, because not because I don't desire to, I just don't need to, because they handle it.
So that's what I would say. A lot of times, like as far as obstacles that I've seen other blended families is how they navigate the other the other party, the biological, whether that's male or female. So the biggest thing with that one is like I took a very hands-on role because I was confident in myself and what I wanted our family to look like. So like I had that individual conversation to avoid the whole here at my dad's house I'm allowed to do this, so I'm gonna do it here when I'm with you and my mom as well. So I had that adult conversation with Jaden's biological, just as far as what I felt would be best for our family, just like in the direction that we've gone. And like ShaKeirra said, we were early on in our faith, so that those conversations have continued. So as I've grown, I've had more conversations about, hey, this is where we're going. This is our vision. This is what that looks like. And the biggest thing for me is that I could say for anybody who is not the biological, like if you're the step parent, to encourage the relationship between the biological and the child. Like don't try to stop it, don't try to step in front of it and be that hedge, but just like encourage it. So that's a lot of the reasons why I took the point on that, because I was raised by a single mom and I always wanted to, like, I had that father, that absent father, so I know what that felt like. So to show ShaKeirra that I was all in, and also show Jaden, I took the lead on that. Like, hey, if you need to be dropped off, I'll drop you off. If you need to be picked up, I'll pick you up. Like whatever that looks like. If they're saying, hey, I can't do it, you can't come over today unless you come over at this time, and it doesn't really work for her schedule, I will make it work for mine to kind of promote that. So then that again opened those lines of communication between me and him, so that we could share and kind of bounce ideas off of each other and talk about what was best for the child, and make sure that he was well taken care of.
That's awesome. That is just, I mean, to me, that's very selfless doing that. I mean, just because you're really putting the child ahead of everybody, when you're trying to make it work on both sides. And to me, he has a bonus. He has two wonderful dads, and
that is
how you handled it. I'm sorry, Tavoya, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's phenomenal. I told you they were amazing. I'm just saying.
That's so cool. So did y'all have any trouble, or have you seen other families where the parents have to work together to keep the kids from taking advantage or manipulating their their stepfather, stepmother, or their mom, or say, well, my dad said I could do it. And I mean, kids, and that happens in real, and regular
that's all the time.
biological families. It's just it happens between the mom and the dad, even if when they're in the same home. But when there's potentially, sometimes you have four. There's two, a stepmom and a mom and a stepdad and a dad, and so. Have y'all did y'all have any experience with any kind of the kids trying to manipulate or take advantage of that situation?
We do a lot of speakerphone or FaceTime. And so if he starts any sentence with, my dad said, 1 second, please, let's get him in on this conversation. We have all the parties in. Our 7-year-old, which is ours together, is more the one that tries to do one against the other.
My sweet baby. Yeah. He's a sweet angel. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
That's more his style. But I definitely would get all the parties in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. And then I would say we address it very early on. Like when you catch the child in that moment, like we addressed it together. Like we sat down, like, okay, so, and I replayed the conversation. So you told me that mom said this. Mom, did you say this? And then it's no. Okay, well, you see, that won't work. Like if you're trying to build trust, if you want us to trust you, if you want things to work out so that you're not in trouble, like you have to be honest with us. So that type of behavior is not tolerated, and it will produce punishment moving forward. So again, the biggest thing is communication. Like she said, we communicate very, very often when it's the mom said, dad said type of scenario.
Good deal. That's so good.
What are some things couples can do individually with their teens and together with the whole family that will create a unified family while you're trying to blend, when you're in a blended family situation?
I think in the beginning, when it was just you, me, and Jaden, we did a lot of boy stuff. We did a lot of fishing and monster truck derbies and football. They played a lot of wrestling in the living room, which I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of that.
Elbow off the couch.
And then I was in nursing school, and so he would be the point person for a lot of things. Chaperones on field trips, Christmas shopping, you know, just random, can you take me to a birthday party, baseball. He had to do a lot of that. And so it kind of just fostered, I feel like, a relationship between the two of them.
Yeah. And then as Jaden got older, ShaKeirra introduced the idea of us going like just on individual dates. Like she would, like she said, and early on, together as a family, we did a lot of more things geared towards guys. And then as he got older, she would start to bow out and say, "Hey, you know, no, that's a guy's thing. Like y'all go, like y'all go." You know, so we that developed like the one-on-one times there, and then we would come back together. And now that we have Jackson, we did their individual times where, okay, this day was one child's, this day was the other child's, and you're just with one parent. And then we would come back and do, you know, on Sunday, we made sure that everybody was all together. Like, hey, Sunday is the family day. Like, so whatever plans you had, if you're the teenagers, like, don't make plans on Sunday because, you know, that's the family day. We're going to do something there. And we did a lot of before COVID, we did a lot of the red box nights for Sundays. And, you know, we alternated which child would pick the movie from the red box.
Oh, love that. So what, I'm just going to repeat what I heard you said that I thought was amazing. So you said in the beginning, what you basically did was, Greg, you put yourself into Jaden's world. Like you weren't like, hey, come into my world. You were like submersing yourself in everything that was important to him. And I think that helps build trust and that helps build value, because it's not so much like, hey, I like you as long as you're doing something. Like, no, not only do I like you, but I appreciate you and I want to know what you like and I'm going to do what you like, even if it's not my main thing. Like, I'm going to inconvenience myself. I'm still going back to that 10 months of premarital. Like, that's a character trait. Like, I'm going to be completely inconvenienced for the sake of this relationship to thrive, not for this relationship to work, but for it to thrive. And when you say it takes work, you are showing that you're willing to put the work in, because I'm sure that was not your favorite thing to go take him to parties and baseball practice and Christmas shopping. And those weren't the fun things, but that was his world. And that's how you were, like, it's almost like you were building your love account. Like, I think this guy, like, I really think he might actually love me and not just my mom. So I think that is key for parents to take away, that you want to completely submerge yourself into that child's world, because that's something that's outside of their parents' new relationship that's still theirs. So I think that's vital.
So when y'all introduce a new child into the family, how and your new child's Jackson, you said your
Yes.
Jackson. So so when Jackson came along, did that change the dynamics at all for your older son, or did he didn't have any issues? You know how sometimes they're like, oh well, that's that, you know, did he think that he wasn't as important in the family because he wasn't Greg's son? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, but I feel like there's kids that deal with that.
I think that he asked for a baby brother for so long that when he finally got one, he was like, oh, this was fun. Now what? And I think that while he was a baby, it was fun. And then when he got a little bit older and kind of angsty, he was like, well, you guys like him better if Jackson would do better on his report card. And I'm like, no, he just did better. Sorry. I mean, he just got better grades than you. It's not because we prefer him, we just prefer the grades that he got. We prefer the effort that he put in. And so I think it took a lot of rationalizing, like, what are the feelings that you're feeling? Let's talk about why you're feeling like that, and let's shed some light and some truth on it.
That's good.
Okay.
Yet again, communication.
Yep.
So do you prioritize your marriage like everyone else's? Like, just because this isn't your first marriage or your spouse's and there's children in the mix, does that mean that your marriage gets pushed towards the bottom of the totem pole in your home in your home? Do you put God first, spouse second, children third? Like, how do you guys navigate that?
Ideally, yes, we try to stay in that order. God, spouse, children. Sometimes it does get out of whack, and then we have to sit down and have that conversation. And like again, the biggest thing is communication. So my wife has told me sometimes, like, hey, you're not being the best husband right now. Like, you're killing it as a dad, but I'm over here, bro. Like, okay, I got it. And then so again, it's that constant communication and just recalibrating things. We've had that conversation with both of our children where I've told them, like, hey, I love you all, but I love mommy more. That's just how God designed it. I pray that God will bless you and you will find the wife of your own, and then you will fully understand what that means. But right now, that I just know that I love you, but I can't love you like I love mommy.
That's good. That's really good.
I think that it's important to be able to have that conversation. Like, what if I was, afraid to approach him and be like, I see what you're doing at work, in ministry, as a dad, but I think that we need to have, like a talk about us.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine like going through life with all those feelings like bottled up and not talking about them.
Right.
And like expecting him to like guess.
A lot of people go through life like that.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Did you have any different parenting styles did y'all come in together with different parenting styles at all?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
How did you navigate that?
I'm a mom and they're my babies. I made them.
Right. It took me 40 weeks to grow that kid.
Right. And so I don't want them to get hurt or be sad or be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Other people don't have that same philosophy as me.
Right.
Well, that's the thing that moms have. It's just a nurturing thing that moms have. We all have it, so don't feel bad, ShaKeirra.
Not at all.
Yeah. So honestly, we had 3 different parenting styles, and this will make sense in just a second. So you had ShaKeirra's nurturing parenting style, then you had my parenting style, which was 2 parts. The first one, which was I was raised by a single mom, so I had that style, which is more that like fun uncle style. Like, hey, we always gonna have fun. Like, you want to wrestle in the living room? Like, let's wrestle in the living room. Don't tell mom we wrestled in the living room, but let's wrestle in the living room, right? You want to play Nerf War with no mask on? Like, okay, just don't aim at anybody's face. And if you get shot in the face, suck it up. And then I'm a veteran, so I had the military aspect as well. And that was one that early on in our relationship, and ShaKeirra had to tell me like to calm that down, right? Where she's like, hey, these are kids. They're not in boot camp. And I'm like, I understand, but the as far as like teaching stuff, a lot of the way I teach my boys how to do things was how I was taught in the military. So they teach you by repetition, and they don't care if you don't like it. So if they're like, hey, make your bed this way, they'll make you make your bed that way 500 times, even if you have it right 499 times. They're like, nope, you got to do it 500, so we know you got it. So she had to tell me a few times, like, hey, whoa, like, that's good enough for a 9-year-old. I'm like, nah, man, if the quarter didn't bounce, it's not good. So you had that aspect, and then you had, like I said, the other aspect where she's like, hey, that is still my baby. Like, don't let my baby jump off the back of your truck. He thinks it's cool, but don't let him do that. I'm like, okay.
So, but again, y'all you had a conversation. You just didn't hold it inside when you didn't agree and how things needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not very good at holding things.
Me either. Neither. So I think that's what makes this work so well, is we both will communicate what's going on, especially when it comes to our children. So we've had plenty of those conversations where it's like, hey, where she's saying, hey, that's my baby, and I'm saying, hey, that's a young man. So I get it, that's your baby, but we got to balance the two, that's your baby, but eventually he will be someone else's husband and have a family. So we can't coddle him too much, but we can't let him run buck wild. So how do we come to that good mutual place?
Right.
That is so good. You guys are great on both fronts, because I've seen you obviously parent very well, but I've also seen you guys encourage one another and then hold each other accountable, like personally. So I always love to see you guys, especially when there's an area of tension or challenge. It's like you won't let the other person come up short. You're like, no, that's not what we're doing. That's not it. That's not what we do in this Lewis household. Sorry.
Yeah.
God won't accept anything but your best. So you're going to do your best because you're
As unto the Lord.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love that. You guys are doing such a stellar job. I'm not perfect because, as you can see, you've had lots of challenges, but you just are committed to thriving in all your relationships. So.
So what kind of strategies obviously communication is really important to y'all. So what kind of strategies have you used to teach your children to communicate with y'all, and how you're feeling or how they're feeling or what's going on in their lives? How did y'all keep those, or how did you teach them to be good communicators with y'all and each other?
I like to look out for meltdowns. Those are usually like the biggest indicator that somebody's feeling away and they don't know how to put it into words. And so I'm like, let's talk about what it is that's actually bothering you. Let's not skirt the situation and be like, I wanted the blue one, when actually I think you might be disappointed. Like let's talk about what it is that's disappointing you. Where did somebody fall short? Where did you have expectations that were not met? Were those fair expectations? I think that it's important not to treat children like small adults, but to train them to be able to communicate with other people and not expect people to meet their needs without them ever having voiced them.
And then the biggest thing for me is I don't accept the nothing, just forget about it. Like I don't accept that as an answer. Whenever I get to where you're like, hey, what's wrong? And it's like, nothing, just forget. And like, nah, nope. Like let's stop. Nothing stop. Everything stops right then and there. Like whatever's going on, turn the TV off, turn the video game. Like you had a thought. We don't stuff those thoughts. We don't stuff those feelings. Let's talk about it. So I can sit here all day, but we're gonna get to whatever it is that's going on right now. So you might as well just spill it. Let's figure it out. Let's talk about it, and then we go from there.
That is so good.
That's so good.
I love that.
Me too. So that's so good. So as our kids become teenagers, they're not going to always agree with what the things that we do and what we say. But how do we respect our teens' right to have their own opinion while maintaining our authority role as a parent or as a step parent?
So I give I got some wise counseling from our middle school pastor right when our son was transitioning into those teenage years, and he's like, hey, give the why. Like, don't just answer with the adult answer, like because I said so. He's like, now they need to understand the why behind why you said so. So a lot of times it's that, and then I make sure that it's not like an opinion that I'm giving. So if it's something as far as the rules or the morals of the house, I make sure they understand the biblical principle behind it. So I make sure they understand, like, this is why we tithe. This is why we tell you to turn away when there's something that's inappropriate on TV, or we change the channel. This is why you can't play that game. We tell them the biblical reason behind that, so that they understand that it's not just mommy and daddy being mean to them.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I am confident in my, I guess, my daughterhood in Jesus, and knowing that he is taking care of me, and the reasons that he lays out for me is good enough for my children. And I just have to be willing to stand on it and be like, this is not something that we compromise on, and this is why. And then just be willing to be the mean mom.
Yeah.
Be willing to be the mean mom? I'm not supposed to be their BFF? No.
No.
Not yet.
Nope.
Later.
Not yet.
Mhm.
When they're 30, they'll come back and you'll be friends.
This is facts.
Oh, that is so good.
Okay, let's see. We have a couple more questions. If you had to pick
Mhm.
one thing that y'all did to help blend your family together that you would recommend to other parents, what would that be?
Honestly, the closed door communications that we have had as the adults, because that kind of put us in a good place. So we are pouring out to our family from a place of health, because we are communicating. All the lines are communication there. There's no tension between us. And even in the times that there were, we made sure that we handled it behind closed doors. And then when we stepped back out in front of our children, they saw a healthy mommy and dad. And that's what.
That's awesome.
I wasn't expecting that answer. I didn't know what answer I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. But I think that is a phenomenal. I think it's just a great. I think it's a great rule for blended families and families that are, intact from, original marriage. So that's just great. Just show that, because you're showing a united front. You're showing a mom and dad that can resolve their issues and be united together. And I think that is so awesome.
It's amazing. Like, I am so full from this conversation. It's just like blessing my life. So what about if I already have a lot of tension in my home? Like, I didn't know what you guys knew, but I'm watching this series and I want to start doing things differently. Is it too late for me to start new strategies? Is it ever too late if my kids are still home?
I think as long as you can communicate with your children and get their buy-in as to the, like Greg was saying, the why behind why you want to do certain things. Like Greg and I will listen to parenting books whenever we go on car rides, like a long car trip or something. We went to Hilton Head over the summer, and we listened to parenting books like with an AirPod, like together, and let the kids listen to music in the car. And so we catch like little nuggets from those books, and then we want to implement them when we get home. And so our kids they're 16 and 7. And so we'll be like, we want to try this new thing. We heard that this is why we want to do it. What do y'all think? Like, they need to know why. Like, this will make us healthier as a family. This will make us, grow closer. We want to respect your input more. I think kids want to hear that kind of stuff, and that gets their buy-in.
Yeah. It's never too late to do a restart, right? The Bible says that the Lord's mercies are new every morning. So that means that even if you have tensions right now, you can begin to break those tensions down just by some of the things that we talked about, communication, and then prayer, fasting. Don't be afraid to apologize for the wrongs that you've done, even if that's concerning your kids. Like, we're big on that. If we make mistakes, we've told our kids, like, hey, we apologize, we messed up right there. Like, let's start this over. Let's do it this way. So again, if you're having that tension, like, don't leave it as the elephant in the room. Just address it. Hey, there's been some tension in the house. Nobody likes that, right? Right. Okay. How do we fix that? Let's talk about how everybody's feeling. There'll be no judgment. We just want everybody to be able to get everything that they're feeling out. And then we can take all that information as a family and begin to restore and put things back in their proper place.
So good. So good.
So awesome.
I know. Karen, there's another question, I think.
ShaKeirra, did you have any issues with feeling guilt over not having how do we word this? Not keeping the original family intact.
No.
I know some parents have, that's good. But I know that some people have issues with that. So that's good.
No.
That's good.
None whatsoever, because the Lord gives good gifts, and I wouldn't trade them for 1,000 nuclear families.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And y'all know the Lord has a very soft spot for men who raise children who are not their biological children. Just look at Mary and Joseph with Jesus.
That's right.
He does, doesn't he? He does have a soft spot for them, does he not? This was phenomenal, guys. Like I could just talk to you guys forever and ever and ever. But we are wrapping it up. So I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you guys do read some good parenting books. Do you have any that you would recommend to the viewers?
The last book we read was Start with the Heart.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You just look them up and just read. Honestly, that's how I don't know how she finds them. I just feel like she's on Amazon or something, and she's like, "Here's a book," and I'm like, "Okay."
Okay. So ShaKeirra, if you have any more that you can't think of after this conversation, you can email them to us, and we'll put them in the description box for when we air the video. If you come up with any, and the Start from the Heart, we'll go ahead and make sure we have the link for that, to the Amazon link for that. Well,
Cool.
It's been great. Do you guys have any last words, any words of encouragement for families out there? Well, before we wrap this up.
I do.
Go ahead.
No, I just would encourage people, step families or blended families, however you want to call them. They're not what they were so many years ago, where it's like, oh, that's my step parent or whatever. I think that if you are doing the work to make sure that you are in a good, godly marriage, then God blesses that. And you don't have to have everything put together. We still have lots and lots of issues with our teenager and our 7-year-old. But, we just pray for grace for the next day. Yeah. It's the same. I feel like it would be the same struggles as I've seen people have with nuclear families. And
for step parents, I would tell them to own it. Like one of the reasons Taboya talked about her not knowing that Jaden was my stepson is I never referred to him or will introduce him as my stepson. And that's a decision that I made, because if I'm going to be in your life, I'm going to be all the way in it. So you're my son because I'm here. So if you're a step parent, like, just own it. Like, you can drop the step off because you're a parent. You are there in the household helping raise that child, so you are that child's parent. So just accept that role. If they so choose to call you their stepdad, then that's fine, but that doesn't change what you do for the family. So you own the fact that you are a parent, and you bring that to the table.
That was
so
good.
wise. That's very wise.
So good. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I think that about does it. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode. It was just a blessing. I'm so blessed. Are you blessed, Karen?
I am. Yes. I am. I'm very blessed.
It's so good.
Did you enjoy that episode? Well, it's not over yet. We want to keep this discussion going. Hop over to the Cherished Daughters Revolution Facebook group and leave a comment now. If this content is engaging, helpful, and empowering, please subscribe and share with your friends. Let's be real, parenting teens can be hard, but you are who God chose to guide her to adulthood. Keep going, Mom. You have everything she needs. God's equipped you for this, and we're here to help supplement. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode.